And yeah, it says we're live. So
This is the Okayest Hunter podcast. Never pass on shooter bucks, because that's just meat in the freezer. It's your tag, you hunt how you want. This is Okayest Hunter.
hey, this is the Okayest Hunter podcast. I am Eric, and with me is Derek.
Eric and Derek. It's the Eric and Derek show tonight.
Eric and Derek show tonight. Greg is traveling, so Derek is remote, and I'm down here with my bourbon. If it storms, it's going to be okay because I'm already in the basement. I'm already safe. It's no big deal. Apparently,
we were actually I was picking up the kids from school, like the after school care, and they were actually all going inside for the severe weather alert or possible tornado warning or watch or whatever one it was. So it's like, hey, let's get the heck out of here.
Yeah. There's some storms that are gonna be blowing through. Everyone's getting all riled up about them. We'll see what happens. I hope that it's not as bad as they say, but they always say it's bad and then it isn't. So it really is becoming a boy that cried wolf with the weather people lately. Like my 2,800 alerts that I got on my phone. For the next 24 hours, there's going to be an expected high level of severe storm activity. I'm like, okay.
Expect winds from 0 to 300 miles an hour.
It's so bad. In fall, I obsess over the weather because I care about the wind direction, but they don't have all those damn alerts. Like, they're like high pollen count, winds, the storm. I'm like, just chill out. I get it. Just give me the alerts that I need to pay attention to that are actually bad. Because when something bad happens, I'm not going to listen.
I need a weather app that's going to give me in 3 days, the wind will be southwest, 6 miles an hour.
There you go.
As you selected for this dance.
Yeah, this is what you want.
Those are the notifications.
That's that would be the way to do it, man. Like, get weather updates around like your your wind or whatever. Anywho, We are brought to you by Nosler. They are going to be on the show. I know I've said this several times. I actually goofed it up one of the times. It'll be June 4th. These guys make really high quality ammunition, and we were using their ammunition last hunting season. The Okayest crew. That's me. I think Derek, you had some. Greg and Matt. I'm a shitty shot, so it helped me kill deer. It was great. Did you get a deer with your rifle? I can't remember.
I shot a doe, but I didn't shoot a buck. I shot a doe on some public, not far from my house. And it was a one-shot drop kind of deal, so it worked as you would ideally want it to. It was excellent, and then I had a long, horrible drag down some real rough shit, and I got it back to the car, and half my doe was already hairless and skunned. So,
oh, sheesh, man! All right, okay, well. That sounds, I can't wait for that shit, actually. That's what that sounds like. So, Nosler Ammunition. Go check them out. Use code OHP and save 20%. Of course, we have our other partners that are our PICs, partners in crime, if you will. Latitude Outdoors. They got new stuff dropping soon. Stay on the lookout. Stay frosty. They had some other things come back in stock. The 2-panel saddle, which we talked about on the show last week a little bit. We'll probably talk about that a little bit tonight, too, just in general. Rack Hub, Derek's tinkering and doing some things. I think you'll see something from Derek at some point. He's got to pick up some hardware for my house. I
need to get your mounting hardware because I got a set of sheds. They're actually right back here on the table that I want to throw on the R2 here. But I just don't have the hardware yet.
I'm excited for you to experience that and do it all up and find a unique way to showcase people because you're like the antler king over there. I have my one Mount Wonder in here. That looks great. I'm really happy to have it, but it'll be cool to see because you have the R2, I have the R1, so I want to see how it works for you and how you do it. I will say when you're drilling into the antler, and this is probably obvious for anybody but me, so if you're like me and it's not obvious because you're a dipshit, not saying those that are listening are dipshits, but but I'm just saying maybe
dipshits.
drill into the antler in a place where you don't mind getting a bunch of bone on the ground. Because when you drill into it, it makes a bony mess of antler shavings everywhere. And it's got a really unique smell to it too. If you've ever cut antlers and stuff like that, you know the smell that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's a weird smell. I don't even know how to describe it.
I do like doing the antler repair. I always drill into the solid bone to like anchor the armature, like wire to build on new tines or whatever they need for repair. So I get that smell a lot, and especially if like you got a dull drill bit and it's really, it's almost like burning the antler as it goes in because it's spinning so much. That's a smell that'll linger in your basement for a few days. So make sure nobody goes down there. You're gonna catch hell.
Oh God, dude. Hey, I wanted to show you guys something real quick here. So, Spartan Forge, I've been talking about them a bunch, but I did want to show that their Cyber Scout is live. It's a paid
Oh, is this
feature.
their AI technology thing you've been talking about?
Yeah. So if you are a paid member, you'll see it on the left. There's a little icon for it. It's called Cyber Scout. So I just went ahead and asked it how to mount antlers with Rack Hub, and I was curious to see if it had an answer for me there. But it actually says mounting antlers with Rack Hub is a fantastic way to honor the memory of a hunt and display your trophies. Rack Hub offers innovative solutions to cater to displaying antlers in stylish and respectful manner. Here's how you can mount it. Gather your tools and materials. It tells you everything. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, 5, all the way down to 8, maintenance and care, final adjustment. So it's actually reading what is on Rack Hub. It knows enough to go to their website and actually figure out what it needs to tell you. It tells you about getting a screwdriver, making sure you have a sharp bit. That, like, it actually tells you, I think it comes with Rack Hub's stuff. They send you a bit. So anyway, a little bit of a double dip here on promoting partners, showing Spartan Forage's capabilities around their new Cyber Scout, but also highlighting Rack Hub in kind of a fun way. And I'd never asked it this question before. I'm actually pleasantly surprised that it knew what to do with that information. And I'm going to guess that if I asked ChatGPT that information, it might not be the same. But I could also ask it like how to build my bow for 3 archery versus hunting whitetail versus elk, or how to, what components I need to build out an AR-15 or something to that effect. And it'll break it all down for you. It's really cool. And it's got a bit of a smart mouth to it too. Like, I'll show you this real quick and then we'll move on.
Oh, is it a little sassy?
Yeah, watch this. How to hunt whitetail bucks on small properties.
It'd be kind of cool if Bill had worked in, how like Siri, you can change her voice and make it like different dialects and like kind of cool if Bill had it like a sassy Englishman would read you all the hunting advice.
That'd be funny. Well, in this case, it says asking Jeeves, but it's told me before, like listening to the Meat Eater podcast, that Steve Ranella guy is really long-winded, so it's going to take a while. Or like checking with SEAL Team 6, it's going to be a minute, then the other side of the world. Like,
a bit of sarcasm, I like it.
Yeah, so it's kind of that kind of stuff. So anyway, I wanted to just share that, and there it goes. It spit out our how to find bucks on small parcels of public land. So kind of neat. So if you are a paid member at Spartan Forge, check that out. Take a look, kick the tires, all that stuff. And then I think the end of this month, I know I'm calendar challenged, but Greg and I are going to go to Whale Tails and we're going to our bows set up. So Greg has the Bear Alaskan, and I think that's what he has. I'm pretty sure. And I have the Persist, which happens to be their flagship bow, which I didn't mean to get. There's a story behind that. I'll share that at a different time. So, but my left arm is like totally jacked up. Like, I hurt my elbow and my shoulder, but I didn't do anything to hurt it. So I actually don't know what's wrong. And I'm getting a little concerned that I'm not going to be able to draw my bow back. So I'll keep everyone posted with how that goes, and looking forward to getting it set up so I can just continue shooting every day for the rest of the year. So that's I don't know, what's new in our world. I think there's a hair in my bourbon. And then Foam Fest is the last Saturday in August the 31st, so the weekend after Labor Day weekend. Registration's in the link in our bio of our Instagram. It's also on our website at okshunter.com under our events tab. You can go register. It's $40. We'll take care of your breakfast and your lunch. and you get a free drink ticket. There'll be snacks, donuts, and coffee and all that jazz, and then it covers your cost for the shooting the course. And then there'll be lots of prizes that we're gonna give away. Some that you can put in raffle for, others that are I think kind of included, but I forget how we do it because I don't remember how to do stuff. So we'll yeah, Oak Tree Dream said tennis elbow. It's bad. I don't know what happened. I just started hurting really bad. Like I can't grip things or lift things or bring my arm back. So
I think you've got old manitis.
yeah, probably just my
Sorry.
kid's fault. But we do have a guest. The last name is going to sound familiar, but we have yet to talk to this Belo. This is Blake Belo, cousins to Bo Belo, which you're also working on Ghostbucks as well. So
yep, I'm more on the self-filming side. Bo does all the editing. I'm working on kind of dabbling into the editing a little bit to help him out, but
no, that's
very cool.
Yeah, we have a good game plan going for this next fall and summer. Kind of getting our social medias more involved and stuff, just to kind of draw people towards our page on YouTube a little bit more.
Very cool, man. Well, hey, we've talked about getting you on here for a little while, and why don't you just take a minute and kind of introduce yourself, where you're from, all that good stuff, how you kind of came up in it, and we'll kick it off that way, man.
Yeah, I've been hunting my whole life, obviously. I grew up in a family of hunters, so Ghostbucks started by my uncle and family friends, and kind of grew up throughout the years, listening to their stories and just growing into it. I started self-filming a little bit myself, like more like just when I got into college, but like was around the filming aspect of hunting for my whole life because of my uncle and stuff like that. So I think I shot my first buck on film when I was 10, a little 6-pointer in Kansas. And then one other one when I was like 14, 8-pointer in Wisconsin. That was pretty cool. 43-yard shot. That was fun. But yeah, once I started getting into college, I'm like, man, I want to start doing this stuff myself. I actually started with like a little L bracket that screwed into my stabilizer. Shot a couple does doing that, and I was like, man, it's not very good quality. So then I just kind of started brainstorming and thinking of different ideas to do that.
What kind of camera would you mount on that stabilizer? What kind of camera would fit on there?
Yeah, I just had like a little Canon HD thing. I mean, wasn't small, but it wasn't big. So like, it was just like, it was perfect size for like a little stabilizer. So it acted as a stabilizer on top of that. So
nice.
That was fun.
That's pretty cool.
Got a lot of cool. Yeah, I don't know if you've watched some of our clips on YouTube. Some of the clips that you can see like a little arrow sticking out in the front of the frame. That's my L bracket.
Nice. I know those shots.
Yeah, and then I kind of transitioned into this little like muddy, like cheap old muddy like camera arm that hooked up to the tree, and then kind of graduated into the fourth arrow category. I really didn't start. I self-filmed for probably 4 or 5 years before getting my first buck on camera. Not last season, the season before, and ended up getting 2 self-filmed bucks on camera within 2 weeks.
Holy cow! Wow. I mean, everyone knows I'm a struggle bus with most things, but trying to self-film is like a nightmare for me. I have a hard enough time doing anything correct when a buck gets in range, and I'm trying to like make sure I can capitalize on just killing the thing. And so then when I have to like figure out like, oh, I have to remember to hit record or get my phone out to record because it's a GoPro and it's like above my head and I don't want to move or things like that. It's like it's just another thing to have to maintain, manage, and like think about. And it can be frustrating because you might miss the kill shot to get the camera shot in some cases. Like if you had like, it's hard, right? Like to get to that.
Oh yeah, for sure. My mentality through the whole thing was like, if I can get it on camera, great. But if I don't, screw the camera, I'm shooting the deer.
Yeah. Have you had any mishaps with the camera like mess? So Tyler, who co-owns OKS Hunter and runs the Upduck podcast, he forgot to turn the red light on the GoPro off. So the GoPro is like on the ground facing, where the deer is going to be, and like totally saw the red light blinking when he hit record. And then that was it. Wow. So he's like, oh yeah, I had my GoPro ruin my hunt for me this morning. Totally didn't realize I was supposed to turn that light off in the front or the heads up display or whatever, like all those things. And they beep. So you got like, there's things with the GoPro as an example, you need to turn off all the audio sounds like for the button pushes and the beeping and the record. And then turn off the front facing camera so they don't see that, and the lights. And there's like, I'm assuming there's a lot of stuff like that with any camera that you get where you got to like get comfortable with it, but not just as a photographer, videographer, but one that's doing something like trying to kill an animal.
Oh yeah, that's part of my like preseason routine is like I'll go scout like a field that I have permission on, or if it's private land or if it's public land, I'll go scout a field and I'll like well before season and I'll get all my gear set up, obviously without my bow, all my camera gear. I'll set my stand up, my saddle, my climbing sticks, get up, get all my camera gear going, and act like I'm actually hunting for at least an hour or two just to kind of get the feel of everything. Because self-filming, it is a process, and you just have to get good at your process to be efficient with it, because obviously you're carrying in a lot of extra equipment, and you don't want to end up missing that big buck opportunity. I've almost had mishaps to where like I'm just getting set up in the morning. I know there's a deer within 50 yards of me, but I have to get my camera stuff set up. So I'm trying to be quiet, but not spook the deer and stuff like that. So it's a lot of yin and yang, and you learn as you go.
And you usually learn your lessons when you're in post going, oh, damn it, I didn't know that I had that problem, or I didn't hit record, or whatever it is. There's all the things like the buck behind me. I thought I was gonna get him on camera. I only got him on camera a little bit crossing this river, and camera's relative. I had my iPhone and I had a GoPro, and that was it. And I didn't get him on either on the kill shot because I did what you said. I was like, I'm not messing with anything. I'm just gonna try to kill this deer. Like,
yeah, and obviously there's certain situations where like, okay, I have a little time to get my camera set up, or there's times when you're in the woods during the rut, and after all of a sudden you hear a stick crack and there's a giant buck at 20 yards.
I'm curious, like you mentioned the efficiency, which I think anyone who's a mobile hunter, like who's carrying in, your gear every time you go, efficiency is obviously huge, and coming up with your routine. I'd love to hear, like, say you're going out on a piece of public, 'cause I know you've been hunting public the last few years. You got your sticks, your saddle, all that stuff. You got your camera gear. What is your typical process? Like, what are you doing first? Are you getting your bow up and like hanging it? Or are you putting your like, walk me through. You just got to your tree with all your stuff. What do you typically do, Blake? How do you set up to not miss an opportunity?
Yeah. First of all, my pack is like 80 pounds everywhere I go. In public land. But yeah, so what I do is I buckle in my strap, like my climbing sticks. So I unbuckle that. I hook up my bow to like a retractable rope. And I put both, usually I have 4 climbing sticks, 2 on each hip. And then I set the first one, and then I get up 2 steps, set the second one, and then go along my way, and then carry my backpack with my platform on. So once I get my platform set up, get strapped in at the top there, my bow holder gets screwed in first, and then my bow comes up, arrow gets knocked. Then I start getting the camera gear ready.
That was the part I was really curious about.
Yeah, and the thing that like I was taught from an early age is like just take it slow, but be efficient. Do a little bit, stop, listen. Do a little bit, stop, listen, and then kind of go along that, so you can kind of hear if there's anything around you. Then you can get more prepared, because the nice thing with the saddle too, and that retractable rope for my bow, say I'm halfway up on my climbing sticks and I hear something coming, bam, I'm already hooked into the tree. I'm leaning back. I pull up my bow. I can knock an arrow, and I can be ready within 20, 30 seconds.
That's a really, I guess you could do that with a tree stand too, if you're using your, like your lineman's belt. So saddle or tree stand, I imagine you could, yeah, because if you're standing on a stick and you haven't set up yet, I was just thinking, wow, that's game changing what you're talking about with the saddle. Because that's how many times we gotten halfway up the tree and a freaking deer comes through that we weren't ready for yet. Like, why is he here?
More often than you would.
Like, it happens so much. So I'm like, oh shit, that's a good idea. But technically, I think you could pull that off if you were hunting out of a platform, like hang on stand too, right? If you're using,
but you don't have that saddle.
Yeah,
you don't have that saddle maneuverability around the tree as much.
It's true.
That's what I love about my saddle.
It's a great setup, man. We'll get into that a little bit more too. But Derek, you are super efficient. Let's all just go around the room here and talk about what you're doing at the bottom. Like you set up, you're going to set up the tree. What's your process? Do you know what it is off the top of your head now? That's not.
Yeah, I mean, I just let me knock some dust off and try to figure that out real quick. But yeah, so I've been I almost always try to do one trip, like what Blake said. A lot of guys like set sticks up and then come back down. If possible, I mean, I'll do that if it's like real hot out and I don't want to like sweat too bad. I'll make 2 trips up so I'm not like carrying too much. But typically, I get to the tree. I use 8ers on all my sticks. So no matter if I'm using 3 or 4, I'm always using the 8er. My first stick always goes higher than I should put it. Like I'm like real ambitious in the beginning. I'm like, oh, I'm going way up, and then I'm like, oh, this was a bad idea, but I'm too stubborn to move it down. So I'll just like monkey my way up. And then what I typically do is my pack, I use like a fanny pack with shoulder straps. And then I got 2 big buckles. I strap all my clothes on, my camera arm, my camera goes inside the bag. And then what I typically do is if I've got my normal pack, I can hook my sticks on the sides, 1 on each hip, like Blake mentioned, or with the 8ers, like our Carbon Speed Series 6 from Latitude. They've got the Amsteel 8er. I literally will just put it over my head in one arm and hang one off one side, one off the other side. And then I'll do my first 2 sticks exactly like Blake mentioned. First 2 sticks up, and then I just peel one off, set it up, peel the next one off, set it up, and then either saddle platform or my tree stand off whatever side I think I need to be in the tree. Get my tether on for either my saddle or my safety harness. And then once I'm up, it's get the bow up, get it on the hanger, arrow nocked, camera arm, futz with that. I got a camera arm I'm not super happy with, and it's hard to get level, and I usually end up putzing with that for way longer.
You don't need it to be level. Do you think this camera in here is level? Like, what's a level camera?
Yeah, but on a camera arm, Eric, I got it pointed this way, and I look at it, and all of a sudden it's going.
Do you know what a funny story is?
So that's good to know because I don't use the camera arm. So
can I tell a funny story here? Quick?
Yeah.
So one of the videos on our YouTube channel, Bo actually didn't have his camera arm set perfectly, and he accidentally bumped it when his shooter buck was coming in, and the camera arm just swung down and just kind of pointed in the right direction. And he's like, "Screw it, I can't deal with it now." And then he drew back, shot it. Buck was perfect in the frame.
Accidentally?
Yeah, because it wasn't level and it just kind of swung down on him.
Bo's just that good.
He's that good. He just knew it. He's like, hey, it's going to swing down. Just bump it with my elbow right there. Go.
Like some Chuck Norris shit. That's a deer hunter or something. Jeez. That's good to know about so it's not necessarily because level you want obviously you want a good shot. You want the shot to be and look level, but it sounds like for someone who doesn't sell film really at all, it's an important thing because then it won't be swaying around on you in funny directions.
Well, yeah, and like the bigger your camera is, some guys are using, a DSLR with a big heavy lens on it. So then the heavier your camera is and the further it's out from the tree, the more that level will make a difference because it's leverage. So if you're off a degree or 2 and you have a big heavy camera, when you extend the arm out, it's going to start to sway. That's how the arm is designed. It's supposed to swivel easily so it's not hard to move when you're up there. But that can be a detriment if it's not level.
That's cool to know. I'm learning something from you guys right now that I did not know.
Oh, I hate it.
You learn as you
go. Well, you mentioned 4th arrow or 4th arm or whatever, Derek, whatever you're using, you're not a big fan of because of the leveling. There's only a handful of companies that either focus on that product, like making a camera arm, or also happen to make some. And some focus on, compactness, whatever, lightweight. And others that might focus on like, it can have a really nice fluid head on it or something like that. Like, what are some of the options that are out there? I don't think there's that many.
Yeah, which one do you have, Derek?
So I've got this is actually a gentleman who makes a whole bunch of 3D printed stuff, Genesis 3D printing.
Yep.
I believe his name is Austin. I don't remember his last name, but he makes it's called a sub 1. So it's under a pound. It's like 15 ounces or something like that. And I think it's designed for kind of like cell phone filming or like a real small fluid head. But I think I have the same camera as you, Blake. I got the Canon G50.
Yep.
And it's just a little tiny bit too heavy for that. It's like a boat buckle strap, and the way that it attaches to the tree is just not as solid as like a 4th arrow. Do you have the one that's got like the big shoulder that you strap on and then put your arm in?
Oh yeah. I've got the first kind of model that they came out with. It's pretty heavy, and I've been itching to pull the trigger on some of their newer stuff on their website. They've got like a saddle set up arm and stuff like that, super lightweight, and like they've got a lot of different
Talk
options
about
now.
the saddle setup. How is that? I mean, just for those listening and trying to paint the picture here, how is a saddle setup going to be vastly different from a hang-on setup? Is it just based on your position with the saddle? You're facing the tree versus in the stand, the tree's at your back, or walk me through some of that.
Yeah, actually, like when I first, like I've been a saddle hunter, or not, I haven't been a saddle hunter my whole life. I've been ladder stands, hang-ons, but mainly like a climber, which is similar stand setup. But like when saddles first came out, and when I first like not first came out, but when I first noticed them, I'm like, man, that looks really dumb. And then once I started hunting public land, I'm like, that's really smart because it's so lightweight and mobile. And then I just never understood like how you could actually like shoot out of them very efficiently, and that was my biggest drawback. But then like I obviously I bought one because I wanted the lightweight of it, and I just went out there and just kind of played around with it, and like you can spin or 360 around the tree, as long as you're stealthy about it. Obviously, if there's a deer within range, you can't just spin around the whole tree. But that's the nice thing about the saddle is like I feel like I can spin around the tree in different angles a lot better than a normal stand.
Yeah. And for filming wise, I think the saddle is ideal for filming because your arm, like you're only going around a tree. Whereas if you're in a tree stand, it's got to wrap around your body and then you still got to get, your bow drawn. So as far as filming goes, I think the saddle is actually superior for self-filming.
Yeah, you definitely have your issues with both, with maneuvering it around yourself, but definitely the saddle seems to be like the more effective with maneuvering around with limited motion.
I would spend so much time in my backyard getting all this stuff figured out. And I think that is an important thing to do, self-filming or not. Because to the question of what do I do at the bottom of the tree, how am I setting up? Yeah, I got to knock the cobwebs out, Derek. I don't even know. And it takes me like a little bit, it takes me like a good 3-4 hunts to get my system down where I'm like, here's what I'm doing. I believe it or not, I am really good at like putting things in very specific pockets for very specific reasons and making sure that's always where it is. So I know that's where stuff is. So I'm not like, oh, where is this thing? And digging in 8 different pockets of my pack, trying to figure stuff out. Like that is something I'm really good about. Everything has a home and a place, and I'm really good about putting it back in its home and its place for those reasons. But other than that, like, yeah, I don't know. It was a different setup for me last year with the Carbon Series speed sticks and the X-Wing platform that went inside my pack. So that was a little bit different because the other platform I was using was on the outside of the pack. And I did some pretty wonky shit. Like I was wearing this vest, this like camo vest, which I really enjoyed because it, on certain days, I just kept my core a little bit warmer and I didn't have to still feel all bulky. I was like, oh, I'm kind of like wearing a vest. This is nice. But I would put the platform in the vest and zip the vest up a little bit. So I had the platform in my chest, my pack on my back, my bow string was, attached to my, hip or whatever, tied to like a belt loop or whatever I was doing. I have sticks on both sides. I'm using 3. So I had 2 on either side of my, like the molly webbing of the saddle, the Latitude saddle, and hang my first stick kind of high like you guys do too with my aider on the bottom of that one. And then I get my stick up, my other stick up, and then I get the platform going, and then I just start to like lose it all. I don't know. Then I get confused. I'm like, I gotta get up here. Then I need to hang my pack. I need to get everything off of me before I could bring my bow up. So like, I'm like, I know this is stupid and wrong. My bow shouldn't be the last thing coming up, but I have to get my bow hanger out of my pack and get that on the tree.
So you got to hang your pack first.
I got to hang my gear. Yeah, hang my gear strap. So now I'm actually thinking. I'm remembering. I hang my gear strap first. That's in my dump pouch. Then I get my backpack on there. Then I can pull my bow hanger out. Then I put that on. Then I get myself all tethered in properly. I'm not, then I pull up my bow and hang it, knock an arrow. It's a freaking dude. It's always been this huge him and haw, sweaty, uncomfortable process. I have gotten so much more efficient, but even just going through the steps verbally right now makes it feel like, what the fuck are you doing up here?
Yeah, you got to try new things. But you should have seen what me and my dad used to do with climbers. Because that was our mobile setup. Like we would get into a tree and we'd unhook the top of our base, get it over a limb, rehook it, get up a little bit higher, unhook the bottom part of our base, get up a little higher, rehook it. Yeah,
Those
that
of you
would have been a sight to see.
Those of you who have not done that before, if you've never gone over a limb with a climber, the part where you take the bottom off, you're like laying on your tiny little handheld. Like, it is not ideal. It is not safe. You look ridiculous.
I had my 1 foot slip out, so only 1 foot was in it. Oh, I about crapped myself in the tree.
I actually have a good friend who they have a cabin near Mountain, Wisconsin, and one of their buddies who's in with his dad on the cabin, so it's a really close family friend. He hunts out of a climber up in the Nicolet, and one night he told his buddy, "I'm going out bow hunting," and he didn't come back. And it's like 10 at night. They can't get a hold of him. They're pretty worried. They know where he's hunting. So luckily he told his friend where he was going to go, which is very smart. If you don't tell someone where you're going to be hunting, make sure you do that. At least send a pin or a text to a family, loved one, in case something like this would happen, or hopefully nothing worse. But so his buddy drives out, finds his truck, parks, starts walking down like an old logging road, and he can hear him yelling and goes taking off running. And what had happened is he had climbed with his climber at the end of the night, climbed down the tree, was about 6 feet off the ground, and was like arranging his pack or throwing his pack off. You know, he's about ready to climb down, and he lost his balance. And the old climbers, he had like a nylon strap that your toes would go in. He fell backward. His toes stayed in the straps, and he was hanging off the back of the climber with his body and couldn't right himself because he's 6 feet off the ground. So his ankles got all stretched out, tore all of his ligaments in his ankles, hung there for almost 3 hours before his buddy came and found him, hanging backwards, upside down off a tree, 6 feet off the ground in a climbing stand.
Jeez.
That was a really long 3 hours for him, I bet. Wow, that's awful. That must have been excruciating.
Yeah, got to be painful.
Oh, God. I mean, we've all had our moments, and some worse than others, some really bad, but a lot of us have. I mean, I'm certain every hunter that's been in a tree has had the oh shit moment, or you're making that one questionable decision, or you're like, I mean, back in the day, hunter safety systems and all the, vests and all that jazz, there wasn't any of that stuff. It was like, you just try to climb carefully and you muscle your way around the tree, or you use your teeth to hold on to things. It wasn't pretty, and I'm not proud of it a lot. There were a lot of moments that in my day now, we talk about my hurt arm, like I'd be falling out of the tree. Like there's no doing that anymore.
You know what's funny is, like, we talk about efficiency and going through the steps to be as efficient as possible, but most of the mornings or afternoons that it's been going the absolute worst,
that's when it happens.
Is when I have the opportunities at the big buck or shoot the buck. It's weird how that works.
Yeah,
it's always like when you finally get your stand set in this ridiculous tree that you thought wouldn't work, and then you like look at it and you're like, yeah, that didn't work, but you hunt it anyway, and then boom, you're that's the time. Always.
It's my biggest buck. That's to a T.
It's so interesting. Picking a tree is one of the hardest things I'll ever do every season. Pick tree selection. I could just walk around for hours second guessing myself. It's terrible.
See, that's why, Eric, that's why you got to just go hunt with me back in that one area. There's very few trees, so you just limit your options.
That's one way to do it. That's what happened last year. I was like, well, there aren't any other trees. This must be the one. And I was like, I know it's not great because I'm going to get busted, but I had to throw a sit at it. I actually thought about tucking into the riverbank and just trying to like get some grass to blind me a little bit as a like natural cover blind, and just shoot them from the ground. I thought that's the way I was thinking. I was like, well, there's not a lot of good trees in this area. I might be better off just standing in the fucking river and letting one rip. And maybe that could have worked. I don't know. Like they weren't going to smell me. I had some good noise cover because the water flow, and they probably wouldn't have seen me, but that would have been an interesting shot. I would have been like below ground level from these deer. So me standing, I would have been like, they would have been a little taller than me. That would have been a strange shot.
I'm just picturing next season, Blake. Eric's going to be packing in a blow-up raft, like a swimming pool raft, tying it off on the bank, standing up in his pink flamingo,
Yeah.
shooting an 8-point. That would be pretty sweet.
I was like, "This, yeah," but I mean,
if it works, it works.
I considered it, and I was like, "No, I got to get up in this stupid tree," and I let one rip at a buck that I was undetected on, and I still whiffed it. So
one of my favorite hunts that I ever did is I decoyed while sitting on the ground, like a little self-made ground blind, and it was kind of snowing, and I decoyed in like 3 different bucks, nothing too like big, probably a yearling, a 2.5-year-old. But that was just the coolest. I had them all within like 15 yards of me while on the ground, and they had no idea I was there, mainly from the decoy.
yeah, it's really
It's
cool.
good to have a distraction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Heck yeah.
the self-filming stuff is, I mean, I think everyone that has listened to the show for any amount of time has heard my disposition towards it. I suck at it, therefore I don't like doing it. So I have a GoPro strapped to my bow, and I let that thing do whatever it does, or I'll strap it into the tree and turn it on, or whatever. Actually, I think I do too. I have one on my bow and one on the tree. And with
Have you ever seen those like 360 cameras?
I haven't messed with that yet. I think
that might be my goal for this fall, is to mess with that.
You don't have one yet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, those look pretty slick.
Yeah,
they always catch my attention on the internet, because it's usually like there's some motion of like panning all the way in or panning all the way out or whatever, and it just keeps going. You're like, what's going on here? It's like, and if you pan out far enough, it looks like they're just in they're like on a globe or a circle, or a planet.
Yeah, it's definitely not as crisp and clear as like the GoPro or the camera, but I mean, you can get some pretty cool shots.
So what I've done, I have the GoPro on my bow is in slow motion, or it's filming at like a slow-mo rate, because I figure, well, if I shoot the deer, that will be in frame, and I'll be able to see the shot in slow motion, so I'll be able to evaluate what I've done. Then I have one hanging in a tree that's just pointing in the general direction at like a regular frame rate. Beyond that, I bring a camera guy with me.
And that's always ideal.
Which is also hard, because like Jace last year, I was like, he didn't have a stand or a saddle or I'm like, so we had to like outfit him with all this stuff. I think we got him a Latitude saddle, but then he didn't have a platform. So I had to give him a platform. And then he's climbing up in a tree and I'm in a tree. No, we got 2 dudes in this tree, and I'm like worrying about his wind current and mine. And I'm wondering if the deer is going to hit him before it hits mine, or mine before him. And is he concealed enough? And is he concealed in a way that can still see either A, me, or B, the deer that might come in from any freaking direction? And if it comes in this other direction, then it's totally busted. I'm assuming it's going to come from that direction, which I'm typically wrong about. Having a camera guy with you, unless you're in the same tree, which I've done with Greg in the past, that's a totally different thing to consider. Like, and you got to worry about their scent regimen, if they have any, all that stuff. It's tricky.
That's
got to get the pocket dirt.
Pocket dirt.
I remember when Bo was on your podcast, you guys talked about that. That was me.
I'm just thinking about like your family, like you and Bo, and like both of your dads, like, and then I think about like what Eric just said, like going with a cameraman, like the situation Eric's in, where we've got like Jace is awesome and his buddy Keegan and like whoever else is like a trusted cameraman, they can like get him out here. But when you hunt with someone for the first time that you've never hunted with, it's very different depending on what they're used to. So like what Eric's doing, taking Jace out, they've never hunted together. They never spent a day in the woods together ever. Right. And then all of a sudden you're going out and it's like, are they going to think this is ridiculous what we're doing right now? Like, is this the bad tree? Whereas like what Blake's doing, man, I've met most of Blake's family. They are all just absolutely ninjas in the woods. Like they're just great hunters.
I feel bad for the regular camera guys.
Is like, it's not as easy, but it's way better because you guys know what you're like. You all know how each other hunt. You've all grown up kind of doing it the same way, which has to be much better when filming because you guys are more in sync without having to say anything, I feel like.
Yeah, it definitely helps when you know someone is on the same page as you. But Eric, you hit the nail on the head with a second person up in the tree. Is like you have a second set of scent, you have more motion. It's just definitely challenging. But it's
like, you're just worrying about another, and you don't want to make, I mean, for me at least, this is me. So I don't know how other people think, but I'm like, I don't want to make him feel bad. I don't want to make him think he's ruined anything if they did. I don't want them to be like, you piece of shit video guy, you fucked up my hunt. Like, I don't ever want to do that, even though maybe I would be thinking it. I wouldn't say it, but and I will ruin my own hunt before they do, nonetheless. But that being said, it's just yeah, to your point, Derek. Like initially I didn't know Jace. I'm like, also I don't know what your capabilities are. Like I feel bad that you're lugging around all the same stuff I am plus cameras, and you're worrying about batteries and shot angle and lighting and everything. Like there's so much going on for them too. Like they're hunting you with a camera essentially, and you're hunting an animal, but they have to hunt both. They have to hunt the animal and you. And that just feels like I have a lot of pent up guilt for them while they're chasing me around the woods. Keegan last year's like, what are we doing? What? This is not where deer live. I'm like, yes, it is. And we like didn't agree on it. And I was like, think what you want. This is where they are. They're in the nasty shit. It's not huntable. That's why I'm going here. This is what Derek has taught me. Keegan, this is where we're going. And he did not. He at some point he's like, the number of sticks that are hitting my lens, I think, was sort of like really perturb him or something, because we were in a very disgusting spot on that really large property, and I was like trying to get back to the water, and I never made it, dude. I couldn't get back there. We pulled the pin. I was like, I can't. We're not going to make it. I don't even know where we are, and I was getting all like frantic because if it was just me, I would have just kept going and suffer. But I was like, this is just too much. You're right. Like we're not making it through here.
Now, nothing against Keegan, but to preface that, isn't Keegan the gentleman who was filming the Lakoskis for their show in Iowa?
Yes. So he probably thinks it looks
He's
very
used to
different.
having 300-yard hardwoods, deer everywhere, and then when he's walking through the marshes, it don't look like that.
This is not what I've seen deer come out of, Eric. Yeah, but we're not. Yeah, it's very different. Trust me. So I was like, I know I'm the okayest hunter, Keegan, but I do kind of know what I'm doing a little bit. Or at least I have some hunches I need to go flesh out. Like I would be happy to have kicked a buck out of here and get validation. Like I wasn't finding any damn sign back there. It was driving me nuts. So I just kept going until I was like hoping to find something. I was like, we're going to find sign. I just need to find sign. We just got to find some sign. There's got to be something back here. This is insane. We haven't seen anything. I was like, I was just going further because I wasn't finding anything. I was getting frantic about it.
I led you astray. I'm sorry about that.
No, you said me where, but then I was like, then I got curious and I got all like, I'm quite the adventurer out in the deer woods. So I really enjoy that part. Speaking of that, tips for hunting public land. We put that post out a couple days ago. Ask a question if you've hunted less than 5 years on public. Leave a comment if you've hunted more than. I just picked 5 years as an arbitrary number because, like, I don't know, it feels like a good enough spot to feel like you could say something. How long have you been hunting public now on your end, Blake? Like, you were on private for a while. Maybe you're still doing that, but you're doing public too with the saddle stuff. So curious to hear how that journey's been going for you.
Yeah, I hunted, actually my first public experience really was in northern Wisconsin, and northern Wisconsin is a challenge in itself. So I found the one county that you could still bait, and I waited till late season, the very end of the season, and I followed rules, regulations, set up a camera, let it sit. I rebaited every week and let the camera sit, and then checked it, and I was like, oh, I actually had a decent 10-pointer on camera, and I was beside myself. I'm like, holy cow. And late season in the Northwoods, those deer are so damn smart. You got to pick the right wind direction. It can't be too crunchy of snow because they're going to know you're there. And it's just, you have to pick the coldest day too, because otherwise they're coming in at night. And so I picked the coldest day I could. I think it was -2 without the wind chill. It was windy, so it was like probably -10, -15. And I waited 2 hours before dark and then went in. Got set up, waited, nothing. And then I pulled the chip that time, go back, and that 10-pointer shed both of its antlers that morning.
Come on, man. Misery.
Yeah. Yep. But now I'm more focused in on public land here in Wisconsin for the last 2 seasons, and this will be my 3rd season. And I feel like this is the season where I've really got it kind of honed in, and I've gotten actually a lot of good bucks on camera. It's just more so about like capitalizing on that. And my strategy really is get your boots on the ground, put miles on the ground, and kind of figure it out preseason. obviously everything's going to look different in season. I do a lot of my scouting kind of in the spring and in the summer. And actually, right before I just had my first kid, he's a month old now, but like I would say 2 weeks before we had him, I did my last like scouting spot where like in season I found a new spot, but I was too scared to go in too further to bump a buck. I've always been that cautious mindset, and it hurts me at times, but it helps me at times. But I pushed a little further into this public piece, and actually found the big buck bed. It's right on the edge of a cattail swamp. It's the highest point. It's just this, I would say, probably an 8-foot circle of dry ground in the middle of a foot of water.
Perfect.
And there's just hair everywhere. There's rubs around it. I'm like, yep, I know where I'm going to be sitting next year.
Yeah.
And you can just tell it just is used over and over and over again.
That's an interesting little dilemma. You mentioned like the conservative mindset. And I got to think that's got to, come from hunting some really good private ground where it pays to not mess stuff up. And then jumping over to the public, it's almost like
you have to change your mindset.
Like, you got to get in there before somebody else messes it up and like get in there. So I think that's really interesting.
And really actually watching the hunting public guys on YouTube too is like, I've learned a lot. And listening to you guys' podcast when you have new guests and stuff like that. It's just, you just need to hear aspects from so many different people and the way they do it to kind of hone in your game and what you're good at.
You get these aha moments and these lights kind of turn on in different ways.
So like the first year I hunted public land down here, like I was that timid mindset from the private lands perspective. Granted, my timid mindset is very focused because I feel like I have a good idea of where bedding areas are and kind of where a good idea where these big bucks should be. But there's so much public land in and around where I'm at is like, you really have to like pan out and find them. So like, even if you do bump a buck, it's like, it's better than not, then he's in that area and you can really focus in on that area.
When I worked in, kind of IT, it was a long time ago. It was marketing and they had an IT arm and there's like these techie dudes that, worked on all the computers and solved all these problems for customers. And I remember one of the guys, the lead tech dude, really, really smart fella, really, really fun fella. And he was telling a story about how he got into computers. And he's like, well, my dad just had he had one extra one laying around. And he's like, you can go tinker on it or whatever you're going to do. And he said, I was really afraid to do things to try to fix stuff because I was afraid I was going to break it. But then he said, I realized I could just do a fresh install. And a fresh install is like, you just start back at ground zero again. So then he's like, once I realized that, I learned how to build them. I was just going in and breaking everything to figure out how to solve all of the hardest problems. And so he's like, I would install intentionally the worst viruses and intentionally get infected and make all of these pop-ups and problems and make it be the worst thing in the world, or try to recover data, and all in the hopes that A, I had a backup, and B, I could recover. And I've thought about that story deer hunting. Once you're no longer afraid that you're going to mess it up, because guess what? Tomorrow you can have another shot at it. If you bump the deer, he's there. Like, I'm not saying you can just do a fresh recall and be like, well, the deer's going to come right back to his bed. I can try again tomorrow. That's not what I'm saying. But once you're never going to gain that confidence if you don't start breaking shit or like start going out of your comfort zone. And I distinctly remember the first time I ever did it. I felt like I'm doing it. I'm going to go do something I've never done. I'm going to go off at this point into this marsh and go to this other spot, which other people get to, and they've probably paddled into it. And like, I wasn't doing anything that new, but it was new. It was new for me. It felt like, oh my God, I'm doing something different. I'm getting out of my comfort zone. I'm building that muscle of confidence to know that like, it's just public land. Just go do more stuff to like, I don't know. I feel like I'm overselling the analogy here. I think people get what I'm saying.
No, I think you're hitting pretty good. Especially on public land. My favorite is like, I like doing that, like that run and gun, really going everywhere in that spring and summer kind of time frame. And I almost act like I am hunting when I'm doing that scouting. I'm not just flying in there just to check one spot. I'm like, okay, how are the deer going to filter in and out of this area? How am I going to access this area? Because access is almost just as key as finding the right spot. So that's every time I step foot in the woods, that's going through my brain is how are the deer using it? How can I access it? Where are they coming from? Where are they going to? Where are they bedding? And how can I get in there without spooking them? Like, yeah, I could just go right to my tree and get into the stand and hope they go through there. But sometimes the access is completely 180 the whole thing and coming in from the backside, which sucks, but it helps out in the long run.
If you're not, especially on any first sit, if it's a first sit in an area and you haven't laid down scent where the deer is going to be coming from, you have, like, I don't know how to say this. It's like in football when they not call off sides, but basically call off sides or get a false start or whatever. Like a free play. You get a free play up until the point where the deer crosses into your scent. Everything before that, you're good. That's your time to be like, figure out when you're going to draw back, make your move, get your shit together, and like let her rip. And not laying down that scent where they're coming from. I've gotten a little bit better at that. But you have to make some assumptions about things. And when I was scout hunting, like last year, I was kind of scouting my way into a hunting spot on an area I'd never set foot into yet. I'd never spring scouted it. I knew it was there. I knew there's potential or whatever. I was doing the thing the opposite. I was getting way too cautious. I was like, ooh, I don't want to go in further, but what can I see from this spot here? I was like, ooh, I was eyeing up all these fresh rubs from the bank. And I'm like, those are fresh. I can tell from here. I don't need to go look at them. I don't need to go lay down scent. So I was like, if I pull my boat up right here and climb up that tree right here on the bank, I will have laid down effectively 0 scent in any area whatsoever. And that worked for that was a golden ticket. There's a golden ticket on the buck behind me too. Like I didn't lay any scent down in a certain area. And I mean, maybe it wouldn't have freaking mattered, but I've thought more about that as I've matured in my, hunting endeavors over the years. I still have so much to learn, but
I would say that's arguably the number one thing across the board is knowing when to stop and when to go.
And you just don't know sometimes.
Yeah, and you don't know. You'll never know for sure, but the more times you do it, the better you'll get at making that judgment call. Like you can I've listened to so many podcasts with like guys who consistently kill big deer because I just love listening to that stuff. And the biggest thing is knowing from experience just when that is far enough, because if you go 20 yards too far, but then have to come back to that tree that you thought you should have set up in, that could end your hunt.
That is the thing.
That's what we're talking about. Like you cross that one trail that you shouldn't have crossed, and knowing that line is so flipping hard. And I mean, you can hunt for a long time and still not know. But the more times you set up and the more times you see those brief encounters that we do get to see with big bucks on public, the better you get at it. And I just want to tip my hat to anybody who's newer to hunting public or hunting in general. And Blake, I don't mean this in any way as a negative to you, but like Blake has killed so many big deer. I mean, like really big deer. Like I've been in a storage shed and then had bucks and like they're unbelievable. Like a ridiculous amount of giant bucks. And you said you've been hunting public. This will be your 3rd year. Have you killed one on public here in Wisconsin yet?
No, not yet, but I'm also a little bit picky. I've passed a lot of good 2.5-year-olds. I'm not throwing shame at anyone that shoots those deer. If you're excited, you shoot it. That's always been our philosophy. It's just I've shot a lot of big deer, and like I'm not necessarily looking for the biggest deer in the woods either. I'm just looking for something usually a little bit more mature, and that's just what I like to shoot for.
Yep.
I was just making the comment that like if you're picking up hunting or starting, hunting on public lands in general, or you're just going to like it can be challenging even for really seasoned hunters, depending on the property. Like it can be very, very different. So don't give up. Just keep putting your time in, keep making efforts, because it can be really, really hard, even for the most seasoned guys who do well all over the place.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, if you can get deer in range on public land, that's a win. If you're a first-time hunter, that's awesome. If you shoot a doe on public land and you're a first-time hunter, that's amazing. That's fun, and you just keep building the ladder and stuff like that. Like I said, I've been hunting I've been going into the woods with my dad ever since I could fit into his stand, his climber. And like he used to climb up the tree with me on his platform, just like 10 feet or something like that. I think I was 2 years old when I would first
that's
started
great.
hunting with him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you're a seasoned pro just by osmosis over all those years. I think, look, if you're new to hunting public land, advice or tips, there's probably a lot of them, and actually I haven't really thought about it. I've not commented on our own post that I put out, and I could probably go read them. There's probably quite a few. I think there's like almost 200 comments, and some of them are probably really good. Some of them are probably just kind of comical and silly or whatever. But don't get discouraged if you see a whole bunch of cars or trucks at a lot. Like, that's gotten me down in the past, mainly because I don't want to ruin their hunt. I know that if I'm going to walk into the woods where I see a lot of vehicles already piled up, I'm like thinking, well, shit, I'm late to the game, and now I'm like going to walk past all these guys and ruin their hunt. They might just be getting set up. They might have just gotten there, depending on the time of the day. If you're going for an afternoon, they might be on their way out when you're on your way in. Like, things are dynamic. I remember one hunt I did where that was the case. I think there were 8 cars at this lot. Alongside the road, I should say, and it was a conservancy property. And there's one main path into this property. It was a very long, narrow property. So you kind of like, it was narrow from the road. It wasn't wide on the road. Like, there was one narrow spot and then went back in a narrow way. And so really there was only one path to traverse to get into this property. So I'm assuming they all just went down that path. And I think my assumption was correct. And so I went down the creek instead. That was right off the road. And I walked alongside the creek, and I eventually got myself into what I learned was called an oxbow. Thanks, Dan Infalt and Jeff Genke and all those guys on the Hunting Beast forum from a while back. And that was one of the first times I had seen some true rut activity. A big buck was chasing off a little buck. I thought for sure it's just another hunter coming down. I was like, oh, here they come. And then I was like, oh my God, it's a buck. It's 2 bucks. And I was like, one was huge to me. And then another buck came up. And he scared that one off. And I was like, holy shit. I just saw 3 bucks in this spot. And I have yet to see any of the other hunters. And so I tried to make a move and cross this creek, and I was playing the wind right, but they probably just saw me. By the time I got across, I was going to try to like do some deery stuff to try to draw that aggressive one in that kept trying to chase everyone off. That was my idea. He never came. It never happened. I had to go. My wife was like, you need to come home because there's some event we had to get to. And I was like, damn it, this is the day, this is the time. But when I got out, all the other vehicles were gone. And I never saw one of those guys leave. They all went down the same path. So I say that story because that was a really exciting hunt. One that I could have easily just been like, I'm going to drive past this. This isn't going to work. I could have been all disgruntled and pissed off or pick some other spot or disrupt all their hunts. I just took a different path, one that felt a little bit trickier, one that I didn't think people were going to do. And it ended up working out in a really positive way. And one that like taught me something about a hunt. Like, it was really an exciting and a big learning moment. That's one of my pieces of advice. Do you guys have anything you'd share?
I have one that directly relates to what you just said that I've said a whole bunch of times in articles that we've written for OKS Hunter.
Yeah.
And probably on here. But I just found a shed this spring for doing this exact thing. And it's exactly what Eric did. It's instead of walking up and down a path that you've walked multiple times, learning nothing, where you're just zoning out, walking back to the truck, just get off the path 50 yards, 100 yards, and walk parallel to it. Because at least you have the chance of learning something. How do you move around it, where people aren't? Just anytime you have the ability to change something and learn more than what you would doing the same thing, do that. Because you never, ever know what you can figure out that's in a stupid spot next to the parking lot, right off the road. I found a shed off of one of my target bucks this year just by going, well, I'm going to walk 50 yards off this path that everybody walks down. Walked 50 yards down the path, cut into the woods, walked another 60 yards, shed was laying right there. Wouldn't have found it if I walked that path that I've walked 50 times already this year.
Good tip.
Yeah. I mean, the hot tip of the day, what my Uncle Doug would say, that I like to say is like, expect the unexpected. And what I say by that is just be unique, try something different. And the biggest thing is just get out there and try stuff. I mean, and trial by error is a great way to learn. And just off the main trail too is a great way to kind of go about it, because like this last season, the biggest buck I've probably almost ever had on camera was on public land probably 200 yards from the parking lot.
That's awesome. Hey, we do have a caller. I'm going to try this and see if it works this week. So hang on here.
I wonder who that could be.
Boy, he's been hanging on for 29 minutes. I feel so bad. Not me. He's been on for 1 minute. God, I'm an idiot. Hold on. Noah, you're live on the show.
Hey, Eric, can everybody hear me this time? I could hear everybody else.
Hey, Noah, we hear you.
Yes, look at that. I don't know what I changed. Nothing.
Hey, there
here
we
you
go.
are. So we'll take it. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Oh.
I'm glad they can hear you and we can hear you. And yeah, do you have any aha moments, learnings, tips, so forth around public land?
Well, first I want to say that last week, Derek, you were 100% on what I was going to talk about last week.
Oh, when you called in and we couldn't hear you? Sorry about that.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, public land, I've only really been hunting it. I think last year was the first time I really hit it hard. I guess it was mainly just I needed to do more scouting more than anything else. Kind of went into it blind. I didn't set up in bad spots all the time. I missed a bunch. But also I was going from it, I wasn't really looking for big bucks. I was looking for doe mostly. I was saving my buck tags for up north on my own property.
That's a pretty good way to start the season. Like, go look for does. I like that.
Yeah. I guess my tip for a lot of people is don't be dismayed by, especially a lot of these hunting podcasts. Not really you guys, but other ones I listen to, it's all about these big bucks, and they bring on the guys from Iowa and all over the place. They're getting the 200 pointers. Well, it's either 200 inch bucks. And it used to get me down, and I'm like, why do I care? I'm probably never going to see a 200 inch buck up north in the Northwoods. If I do, great, but I'm just there really to shoot deer.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to send you the hoodie that says shoot deer for you.
Yeah, you got to hunt your environment and you got to enjoy what you're doing.
Yep. There's a question I have for you guys around does. When's the better time to be taking a doe? I've heard some arguments that are like, no, you don't want to shoot now because she's going to get bred, or now she's been bred. If you take her out, you're going to take out a fun. I don't know the answer. I'm asking because I genuinely
when it's
curious.
Put it in your freezer.
Yeah, right. That's
I think it depends. Like for me, my calculus is a little different. Like for public land, who cares? It's public land, does. But for my own property, it is kind of if I shoot does early, then they're not around there to draw the bucks in.
So, but then but then later you're hunting for those bucks. So then, like, when do you shoot the doe? That was kind of the I'm sorry to put you in and entrapped you a little bit because, like, yeah, maybe you don't shoot them early because you want to be around, but then later on,
Noah's gonna drop a hot doe in his food plot, and then he's got decoy. He's got the smell.
That's the way to do it.
It's a win-win situation.
Yeah,
Right
just got to get a pet deer, raise it, and when it goes in the heat, perfect.
That's how the Belos do it.
Yeah, Eric, I've had your dilemma a ton. Honestly, I kind of just decided last year that I try to take one doe opening weekend or close to it early in the season, just to get into the groove, prove I can still do it to myself. And then as the season goes on, that's when I'm specifically hunting for bucks. So I'll usually let most of my does walk.
Yeah.
And then that's when I'll use my public land to go, fill the freezer.
That's cool. That's kind of how Greg does it. I think he tries to get a doe right out the gate. And then, come gun season, he usually puts, the last 2 years, he put on a whole slaughter. I think he got 3 does each year, and he was just dropping them like they're hot. Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
That was what that was.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to this. Like, when I was hunting private land, particularly, actually the first 2 weekends, I wouldn't try to shoot a doe because that's usually when like the bucks are in their early season pattern and most vulnerable other than during the rut. Granted, I would still shoot one if it was like I'm just about to get down or something like that. Because my main reason for not shooting a doe is like, oh, is that buck right behind her? Or is that buck just out of sight, but he's working his way towards me? That's always been my dilemma. So like my favorite time to shoot a doe is that early October range in Wisconsin's that area. But for the most part, if you want to shoot a doe, shoot a doe.
Yeah, I wonder. I just am curious.
That makes a ton of sense for early season evening hunts. Like if you're hunting a food source or near a food source or acorns and deer are exiting a bedding area or coming out into a food source, you don't really want to shoot a doe 30 minutes before dark because that buck is probably going to come out in the last 5 minutes. So you might have ruined your chance at whatever buck you're hunting. I personally think that like the October timeframe, like Blake mentioned, in the morning especially is a great time to shoot a doe if you have the opportunity, because deer are pretty spread out in the morning from what I've seen. Like groups come back, and then they filter in and out. If you can shoot a doe in the morning anytime in October, that's pretty ideal for your killing schedule, I would say.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, again, property wise too, because my property, I can tell you, like, I have cameras. I run a ton of cameras, and so I know my patterns pretty well. And I'll early season, if there's a buck, he's usually by himself. Except my really young spike bucks that'll travel around with the main doe herds. It's not until the rut is when I start getting my really big bucks, and then they're actually following around the doe. So I would just say it depends on your property, really.
Yeah, that's a great point. You got to know your property and hunt your property.
Good stuff. No, thanks for calling in, bud. Sorry, I think I got to you pretty quick, and I'm glad it worked this time. Hopefully it continues to work. I did reboot my computer, so I feel like maybe I jostled something loose in the old tech stack. So good to hear from you, bud. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, no problem.
Have a good one, Noah.
Thanks, Noah.
It's an interesting topic. I think some people just really don't give a shit at all, and I don't think that's a problem at all either. I'm not dogging it, but some people do give a shit, and I want to know why. I would like to know why someone is concerned about something, because it means they're passionate, and if they're passionate, that's probably a good thing. So they're getting like a little abrasive about it, and I just like to understand the lay of the land a little bit, because I'm curious. I don't know what I don't know, and I would love to learn more about certain things that I don't know anything about, like the best time to shoot a doe. I think the best time is when I have an opportunity for me.
That's it.
So, but I would add the cherry on the top is rifle season. I'm shooting the shit out of all of them. So, like, I can't even begin to tell you the sniper-like feeling that came over me last year. I almost put down a couple of deer like instantly, and I don't even know what happened. Like my brain, I had to like slow I was in what I would call kill mode, and I had to take some self-talk to like, what are you even doing? Do you even know what you're doing right now, brain? Like, you just racked another round before you even considered racking another round. It's already in the chamber. You're ready to fire another round off. Like, slow down, homie. Like, I was just like, pow, 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 pow. I was like ready to just start dropping deer. Like, I was like, how many takes do you even have? Like, I didn't even know what was going on. It was so crazy in my brain. And I didn't shoot the other one. I should have. I could have, and I should have. I think I should have. I should have just dropped that bitch. She was totally dead to rights, and I just was like, well, wait a second. What am I doing here? At that point, I didn't even know if I got the buck. So I was like, I don't need to be dealing with two of this. Like, I don't even know what's going on yet. So
shoot first and then deal with it later.
And I didn't see the doe first. I saw the buck first. So then I put him down, and then I was like, oh, there's a freaking doe. The cameraman, Cam Namella, was with me. Cam's crazy as shit. Let me tell you, this guy, he's a cameraman. I shoot the deer. He's like, we're walking up to like see. He's still kind of kicking a little bit, and he pulls out his pistol and he's like, "You want to freaking put it out with this?" I was like, I mean, let's just wait a second. He's probably gonna die by the time we get over there. But he was like, he was ready to go, man. He really wanted to bust that 9 off his hip and be like, let's go fuck shit up, because he was running cameras. I think he just felt a little bloodthirsty or something.
I almost felt a little bit bad on the doe I shot during this gun season, because it was during the second weekend. It was Saturday, It was afternoon hunt. I called the wife. I was like, hey, can I quick go hit this spot? I just want to go see if I can get a doe for the freezer. She was like, yeah, go for it. So I like hiked in. I knew it was a little late. There was one car in the parking lot, but there's a lot of space in this area. So I cut hard left. I went way back and I just kept going like, oh, this is the tree. Oh no, I need to go a little bit further. And like all of a sudden it's pretty, it's getting pretty late. It's like an hour and a half before dark. And I get up in my, I hang my sticks up in this willow tree. I'm in this low shit. And I get up like 4 sticks. And as soon as I get up, I like finally look around and there's like blaze orange, like 250 yards into the cattail marsh. So this guy probably snuck in, got in there super quiet. And I'm like, well, shit. Like, I hope I didn't just mess his stuff up. And, he's kind of giving me the like, because I'm late and I know it, but I'm like on the fringe. He's in the heart of the stuff. And all of a sudden I see him and like kind of watching him out of my peripheral. And he's doing some real movements up there after a while. And all of a sudden I can hear deer running through the cattails. And he spooks out like 4 does and they all run out right in front of me. And I'm like, thank you. Oh! One shot, he whips his head over toward me. I'm like, see you, bud. So I got down, got that doe, dragged her out before dark.
Done deal. That's great. No, good topic, fellas. I mean, I think we covered quite a bit of ground. Blake, I mean, can you take a little bit more time to talk about Ghostbucks and kind of where you guys are at and what you're looking to do, what's on the horizon? You guys are, I know Bo's a psychopath when it comes to not sleeping and putting in a shit ton of work on editing. And you guys have some really cool properties. You got some cool people, like Derek, who's coming down and hunting. And, you got a lot going on over there. And it's kind of like this revival thing that's happening on the YouTube front. So I'm just curious here what's cooking over there.
Yeah, I mean, we're just really starting to build the brand and like just as a whole, it's more like just like our family's kind of taking it over. We have family friends that are involved as well. But we're really just building it and it just keeps slowly building. And we're looking to do some really fun things this later this year. Like I said, we're going to build our social media a little bit more to kind of get out the content that we like to see, along with like, being on your podcast here, it was kind of my gateway. I want to start a podcast myself, and kind of my basis of my podcast is I want it to call Hunting Ghostbucks, where like it's more just like telling stories. I want to have like special guests on, and like I want you to tell me a story where you were successful, and I want you to tell me a story where you were unsuccessful, how you learned and how you took it and how you learned for the next time kind of deal.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, so, it's on brand. Ghostbucks, like hunting Ghostbucks. Bucks are ghosts in the woods, and especially ones that we can't kill or that we finally do. They've been ghosts for a long time. And if you need any help or assistance or anything at all, let me know. I've been doing this for a long time, so I can maybe help you get through some things the easy way. Much like,
yeah, I appreciate
it. And easy because I've done all the wrong shit already. So much like I would maybe call you guys for some help on how to hunt a big buck, I would hope you could share some insight with me.
Call me anytime.
I usually call Derek when I have a buck in range. I'm like, they're here. What am I doing? So it's like, well, not call me. You're already in it.
If you guys want to see what to do, for real, listeners, go check out the Ghostbucks YouTube, because Blake has been, recording footage, self-recording and hunting. They got a huge team. You guys have like a lot of people, probably 12 or 14 consistent members who are recording their hunts, and Bo does an awesome job editing them. They're not super long, but they're in depth and they're just great, down to earth hunting videos. So definitely go check out the YouTube. That's my plug for you guys, because I love you guys and I think you're great people, and we just love getting in touch with good people. So we appreciate you coming on, Blake.
Yeah, appreciating you guys having me on here. It was a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah, no, we're happy to have you, and it's nice to have a guest. Uh-oh. There's all the weather shit.
Weather alert.
There's all the other shit. Well, all right, folks. Thanks for tuning in tonight, wherever you get podcasts. If you're on Spotify, or if you're not, I should say, if you're on Apple listening to this when you consume podcasts, if you go to Spotify, you can watch the video podcast version. We now have video playing on Spotify as well as our YouTube. YouTube, usually I get up the next day because it's a whole different process, and I try to get it out to Spotify the same night. So once I'm done recording the show, I have to download each person's camera, convert them from what's called an MKV to an MP4, dump them into Adobe Premiere, line up the audio, and then I send it, and then I put it out there. And it takes a while to upload the video files in contrast to the audio. So, if you've been noticing that the episodes are launching much later than they used to on a Tuesday night, that's kind of the why. But from the data and the stats that I see so far, a lot of people are actually watching on Spotify. So hopefully that's something y'all like. It's one of the reasons we picked that platform that we host on. So I hope that it's a value add for everybody. And if you're on YouTube, comment. Also on Spotify, last housekeeping item, I'll try to do a better job. There's engagement on there. I can pose questions to the audience at key moments, like, when would you shoot a doe? What do you think? And you can comment on that, and I can publish those out to Spotify. So I'm learning all that Spotify has to offer. They keep coming out new products and new things for us to be doing. So, I think it's a platform that I am enjoying more and more. I don't have that stuff on Apple, so I don't know. That's all I'm saying is check out the Spotify version of stuff. And it's available on Apple or Android versus the Apple stuff is only available on an iPhone. So, or you can watch on your computer, whatever you want to do. That's all I got. And
he's too humble. He's too humble to say it, but go check out all the Blake's bucks he shot the last 2 years on Ghostbucks hunting on YouTube. He has shot a whole bunch of beautiful bucks the last few years. Go check out his videos. They're great. Bo edits them. Awesome family. Go give them some support. Like the channel. Subscribe.
Yes, please do. They have no problem supporting us. So yeah, go check them out, guys and gals that listen. Appreciate it, everybody. Have a great week. And I almost forgot. I did forget muck boot in the beginning. So if you want to save some money on boots, OHP will save you 15%. Code OHP at checkout. So
it's a great boot.
I rocked them. I wore them this past weekend. I took my son turkey hunting up north. We went up to the cabin.
Okay.
And I got like these muck boots. They're like hiker boots. But they're all rubber, and in the morning it was all, dewy condensation. Dude, those things were freaking awesome. I actually really liked them.
That's good to hear. Send me some photos if you got any. But
I have Arctic Storm for late season hunting. Those things are nice and warm.
That's great.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, everyone's already wearing them. It's kind of like, well, when you need a new pair, just make sure you use that discount code so you can actually save some coin. And at least that way we know people heard that we talk about them and that they see the logo and they'll go, oh, yeah, I guess people do listen to your podcast because we saw a couple code redemptions. That's it. And it's like, go save some money and show that you actually listen and use our stuff. And that's across the board. I make every partner use code OHP. They're like, hey, here's a code. Okay. So I'm like, no, OHP. So it's really easy for our listeners. OHP anywhere they go and it'll work. Otherwise I got to memorize 6 different freaking codes, and I'm going to get it all wrong and mess it up. So that's the reason there. But have a good night, folks. Thanks so much.
Have a good one.
Cheers.